There was a night, years before I met my wife, when I drove through a tunnel at 200 kilometers an hour. There was alcohol in my blood, and there was no God in my life. Or so I thought. Around the same time, on the other side of the world, a car was rolled into a wreckage. The woman who climbed out of it had nothing but bruises and scratches, and is sitting across from me right now. Neither of us was talking to God in those years. We had both, in our own ways, told him we didn't need him. And he said nothing back, just silence. Most of us have been told that silence from God means something is wrong with you, that you're not praying hard enough, or faithfully enough, or with the right words. That's not what we believe. And while we were preparing this episode, Kavita said something that I haven't stopped thinking about. She said, God was not silent. We just couldn't hear him. And there is a difference between those two things that took us years to understand. Today, 3 seasons where God said nothing at all, and what the silence was actually doing. This is His Faithfulness, episode 7, when God goes silent. Today is not about losing faith. It is about what happens to faith when God says, wait. And all you hear is silence. We are going to share 3 seasons between us. 2 of them belong to both of us in different ways, and 1 is mine alone. And all 3 of them end the same way, with God showing up quietly, without announcement, at exactly the moment it was supposed to happen. Never early, never late. We'll start in the season you just heard the edge of, the years we weren't listening. And Kavita, I want to start with you because your silent season began with the hardest day of your life. After your mother passed, what happened between you and God? Not the anger, the slow walking away.
We had an argument, so we weren't really talking to each other basically.
We meaning you and God, right?
Yes, of course.
You had an argument with
Yes,
God.
we had a battle there. So knowing from the previous episodes how much I love my mom and the things that I've lost in my life, and when as things were starting to pick up, when I was able to think that again, I'm capable to provide something for my mom or show her a better life, and I lost my mom, right? It's just in a blink of an eye, right? And nothing was in my control at all. And then I started wandering around. So just days after days, months after months, I left my home right after she passed, and I didn't have the courage to step into that house because there was a lots of memories in it, and I remember packing everything off and just going off. So life was just that, and I was every day non-stop. I questioned God, and why did He do this? Why me? Right? There's so many other people, but why me? Why me? Well, when you are in the situation, you will always ask, why me? And is it not enough what you have gone through already? So I have gone through so much since the beginning itself. It wasn't an easy life since the day I was born, I could say. Nothing was easy. Everything was difficult. So, and just that when I started to understand things, when I think that I can get a grip of or hold of things, and I started to take charge of things, and I can build something for myself and to show my mother, I lost everything. So that's why I question God, why now? Why didn't you let me have that opportunity to rebuild or improve myself, or provide or have that happiness, at least feel that happiness or that joy? Everything was taken away one after another, time after time. And of course, you feel like there's no God, right? You will definitely feel that like there's no God. So I was just wandering around, like what I said, friend's house. I was doing odd jobs. I was working here, working there, whatever, I was just wandering around aimlessly and not knowing what's going to happen the next day.
But when you look back, right, because I've been in that exact same season as you, tell me if you feel the same way. For me, it feels like that part of my life was on pause. Like if you show a chart of my growth as a person,
You know,
that was the part where it was
silence.
there was a pause.
Yeah.
Someone hit pause, and you were just sort of living from one day to the next.
Yeah, it was a gamble for me to see what's going to happen the next day.
Yeah.
No faith, no hope, no aim, nothing, right? So it was zero. So yeah, it was a total pause. And it was about 3 years since I was, going around, wandering around like that aimlessly. And that's the time that I had nothing in me. I wasn't prepared for anything at all. I wasn't thinking about the next day, what's going to happen, where I'm going to live. That's it. I just go on about the day, not knowing what's going to happen the next day. And I didn't have any God in me. I didn't even sit down and pray and say, God, please provide me with this, so and so, or thank you for this, so and so, nothing. It was just every day, it's just a blank, silent night for me.
You feel like God is not even in the picture.
Yeah.
Tell us about the accident. What you understand. Well, first tell us about the accident, and then tell us what do you understand about it now that you didn't understand about back then.
Before that accident, there were many events that place in my life as well that, I think that I couldn't have survived going through all those things. We imagine I'm a girl, right? And being in Malaysia in the place that's not really safe for teenage girls, especially walking around, wandering around the streets, right? So even during that time, I was always kept safe, right? And then I started to wonder already. In the back of my mind, I started to wonder, like, something is there. I know, and I could feel it. Someone is there, I know. So the day I met an accident, it was a huge accident, and I was out with my friends drinking and all that, the usual thing that I do every day. I work, I get money, and I just go out, hang around with my bunch of friends and all that. And I don't know, I just wander around in my friend's house. I have no contact with my dad. 3 years, I didn't speak to him, my brother as well. So we were just broken. Our family was torn apart. We were just broken. And I believe that I had no God in me, right? But this is a miracle that happened that one day we were just driving back, and I think we went all out, right? So the car that I was in with my friend driving, there were another 3 people in the car. It was very late, I would say about 4 a.m. or something like that. We were driving quite fast, and the only thing I remembered is a loud bang. That's it. After that, it was a total blank. Right? It was a bang and it was a total blank. And then I remember I opened my eyes for just like a glimpse. I just opened my eyes for a while, and I looked around and I could just see the sky, and that's it. And then I closed my eyes, and that's it. I was taken to the hospital. It seems from what I heard, my friends, and people around, right? Immediately people came and all that, because our car actually there's a toll booth, and before the toll booth is like a divider kind of a thing, right? So we hit that, and we actually went into a big, huge drain, right? Huge drain. So it was very
storm drain.
Yeah.
In Malaysia, there are these huge storm drains.
Yeah, and it's very deep.
Yeah.
It's very deep. But myself, I didn't end up in the drain. I flew out of the car, right? So I don't know. Yeah, so people were like describing it was like Superman, like that, flying out of the car. I flew out of the car window while the door was closed. I wasn't wearing my seatbelt. Maybe that was one of the reasons. So, this is a very bad habit. It's passenger in Malaysia. Of course, I don't do this anymore. Just so you know. But those who are always at the back in Malaysia, especially, we don't really prioritize wearing seatbelt.
Yeah.
Of course, if you're a passenger beside the driver's seat, you do that. But behind, you don't really prioritize. So I was at the back seat with my friend, another girl. They were all wearing seatbelts, right? And I wasn't wearing my seatbelt. I don't know why. And when the loud bang came, I just flew out of the car, out of the window, the small window. And this is a very small car. Yeah? They call it Kalisa. It's like the Mr. Bean car.
It's the Malaysian version of the Mini.
Yeah, correct. Yeah. So it's a very small car. So I flew out of this car and then the window and I landed on right on the highway in the middle of the road where there were cars going. It was a highway. So I landed on the road highway. Cars was going, you know, here and there. And, I just in the middle, it's landed in the middle. And that's it. I landed, and that's where I remember. I think then that's when people came. So many people came, and they started to help and all that. And they were looking at the car down the drain that went in, and then they were trying to save those who were trapped in the car. So my friends were still trapped in the car. Yeah. So then, since I was there and I was visible, the ambulance came almost immediately, actually, because it was near to the hospital, and they actually prioritized taking me first because I was already there. So I was then put in the ambulance and I was taken. That's where I remember opening my eyes for a while and I had a glimpse of I looked up the sky and it was all dark and all that. I could see the stars, just like my childhood, this like memories, right? Flashback. And I was taken back. I was taken to the hospital and then I couldn't remember anything after that. Obviously, I had very severe injuries, especially in my head. I had about 20 was stitches on my head and I had bleeding. My face, couldn't recognize my face because half of my face was just bruised and it was swollen and, I couldn't speak, I couldn't eat, couldn't recognize me at that point of moment. And I had sort of I was disoriented as well because of the injuries and all that. I couldn't remember or recall things were what was happening around me even before that. I sort of short-term memory loss kind of a thing. So then I remember my brother got the news and he was so angry about, my friends, that they were responsible, about my whereabouts and all those kind of things. So basically I was in the hospital for about few weeks trying to recover and all that. And the doctors were amazed. Why I'm saying this is because my friends who were in the car with me, 3 of them, right, including me, 4, right? When the moment I woke up, I still remember fresh in my mind that what happened to my friends. That's the first thing I asked myself, where's my friends, right? So there were other people around me in the hospital and all that, right? Including my brother and all that. So I was asking where's this guy, where's this girl? So they said, no, don't think about it. They were trying to avoid the answers, right? Then few weeks later, once I started to walk slowly, then I learned the truth that the girl who was sitting beside me, she broke her hip bone. And for the rest of her life, she has to limp. She has to limp. And the guy, the driver, that sadly is one of my close friends as well, but he had a very serious brain injury, very bad. And it was very severe and he had lost his memory and all that and he couldn't be safe and he was in the tubes and machine and all that for quite some time. So the doctor actually gave up hope and the doctor asked his parents to take him back home and put under home care, full home care, right? And that's it. They converted the whole place into a hospital and tried to look after him. What I heard is a year later, he actually passed away. He didn't make it. And there was just too much of damage. What I can't imagine is that I still remember that people around were talking, like even the nurses and all that, looking at the accident, it was really bad. The car was in total loss. Couldn't be saved at all. When I saw the picture of the car, like a month later or something like that, I couldn't imagine because it was like it was like a team. It's like just crushed. You can't even know that it's a car, right? You can't even tell that that's a car. So people were amazed that from that injury, I came out with just bruises and just cuts here and there and my wound head. That's it. Right. I recovered quite quickly. I remember just about 2-3 weeks. My brother was there looking after me and I was taken back home and my dad was there as well. So, both of them, they were looking after me, I remember. So, yeah, I mean, I can't imagine because it happened very fast and then things resolved quite quickly as well.
On the other side of the country, because we did not know each other yet, I was doing the exact same thing. Different shape, same recklessness. That tunnel I told you about wasn't one night. There were many nights like that. Alcohol fueled, no seatbelt of any kind on my feet. I was young and confident, and I did not need him, to be perfectly blunt, right? I just did not need him in my life. And yet, here we both are, both alive by some miracle, both sitting in front of a microphone, talking about the faithfulness of God. Kavita, when you look back at those years now, where was God in them?
The background. He was working in the background. So one thing I can say, right, when people look at me during that time, during all the events of my life, when I look at myself, of course, I'm amazed, right? But when people look at me, how I came back and how I recovered very quickly and how I was saved, why I was thrown out of the window, how did that happen? Everyone was puzzled, right? I started to question. That was the event. That was the turning point for me. When I went back, when in my recovery, I was seeking for this God again. I remember telling God that I know it's you. I know you are there. But why are you still silent? Why are you still keeping quiet? Right? Why can't you speak to me? Because I know that this God speaks to people, this God talks, and he does a lot of things. He's a miracle worker, right? But he was already performing miracles in the background for me, silently, right? He was holding my hand throughout the entire journey, that 3 years that I lost faith. But know what? God did not lose his faith in me because he knows that I was going to come back to him in the end of the day. And he knows in the day that I was born, I'm here for a purpose, right? I serve a purpose and I serve him. So he is not going to let me go or he's not going to leave me abandoned.
Mhm. We talk about this often, right? The no other way to put it, but the stupid things we did when we were young. There are so many of them. And every time we come back to the same place, someone did not walk away from that accident, your friend that you were talking about, right? You did. I should definitely not have survived so many of the nights that I have lived through. I've put myself in situations where it's amazing that I even walked away breathing. And yet, he was there, quietly, without us knowing, without us deserving. He was still there. In our reckless years, God was silent because we had told him we did not need him. But there's a second kind of silence, the one that comes after you've come back. When you're serving, you're praying, you're doing everything right, and he still won't answer the one prayer. I know that silence too. And the answer to that one is sitting right across from me. The second season is mine, and it's about her. I desperately wanted a family. I had come back to God. I was serving. I was even preaching from time to time back then. I was trying to live right, and I was praying to the right person. Specifically and urgently, I wanted what I wanted, and I wanted it in my time. I wanted a wife. I wanted a family. God was quiet on that one too, for longer than I wanted. And in that silence, I had moments where I wondered whether I had gone, whether I had got something wrong, right? Whether God was withholding something from me that I had somehow disqualified myself from. And then Kavita walks into my life. And I understood immediately not why the wait had been long, but why the answer was her specifically. There was no version of Kevin who was ready for Kavita before the version that showed up that day. The waiting had not been punishment, it was preparation. His time, not mine. But here's the part of the story I only learned after. Kavita, while I was praying for you, you didn't even know, right? You didn't know that someone was out there waiting to meet you.
God has plans.
Where were you in those years? What was happening in your walk with God in those years just before we met?
Oh, I was wondering as well, still wondering. When I decided to surrender myself to God, and I know that this was the God that who saved me, this was the God who had purpose for me, this was the God who kept me going and kept me alive. So then I surrendered. I surrendered and I realized that it's time, right? And there's nothing greater than this God. And there's no any other God that I should obey or should bow down to, because even when you're angry, even when you're desperate, even when you're frustrated, this God never abandons you, never lets you go.
Amen.
Right? So this is something that I learned only later part in my years. I could have been dead. I can imagine that a lot of things could have happened, but never. So there are things that happens in your life. It has a purpose. Me losing my mother, me going through all those things, me going through this and that. There's a reason. It's for you to have that strength. For you, God is testing your faith. God is testing your faith every single hour and minute of the day, because He wants to know that how much you submit to Him, how much you trust Him, right? So your faith is being tested every single day, even mine, even until today. So when I surrendered to this God, I was going to church, to this church that I don't even know how to pray. Whenever I have the time and I have the chance, I'll go. But I know I do it frequently, right? I never failed. And I didn't know in the background, God had plans for me already. So remember, when you're born, day you're born, He already knows your name. He already claimed you. He has claimed you the day that you were born. So remember that He has already planned things for you. All you need to do is follow His will, follow His plan, and it will be done according to His way. That's what we need to do. That's the faith that I had. So as time passed, I was just learning and more and more and more. I felt this attachment, right? But I still hear nothing. It was still silence. But I told God, you are quiet, but it's okay. But you know what? I feel your presence. It's good enough, more than enough for me. You don't want to speak to me, it's fine. But I know you are there, right? So that's good enough. That got me to the whole entire journey until I met my husband, Kevin. And what I learned after that is a lot more things, right? About Christianity, about how you read the Bible, about baptism. Then I got baptized before we got married. And then I learned that this is what you do in church. You know, it was a whole new experience. It was a whole new journey. I felt renewed. I felt like a new, brand new person. I had a purpose. God started to show Himself slowly but surely. Then I heard the voice. God was talking to me already then. He said, see, patient. All you need is patience. I am there. All along I was there. Right? So when I started to hear His voice, it just changed everything. Whatever that you've gone through in your past, right? It means nothing. For you, it's like the moment you hear God, right? You know the battle that you have fought all these years. The moment you hear the voice of God, it just something different. You feels like you're in a whole new world.
Yep.
It's a beginning of everything. That's it.
Yep.
Right? It's a different happiness.
We found the right version of each other
Yeah.
in His time, not ours. So that sentence, right, in His time, that's a sentence that I have had to learn to be at peace with, because my time always felt more urgent than His. But His time always turns out to be exactly right. To be honest with you, both of those silences I can explain from where I stand today. The reckless years, we weren't listening. The waiting, He was preparing. The third season that I want to quickly touch on is different, right? Because it's the one that nearly broke me. Because in that one, I was listening. I was doing everything right. And He still said nothing. Now, those of you who are regular listeners of the show, you know that we spoke about this in episode 2, right? That period when I was jobless and I was desperately looking for a job. The bank account was almost at zero, all of that. But I want to talk about one particular moment in those 2 years. And it was when I had just completed an interview. I thought I had done well. It was through a contact of Kavita's in her company that she was working in. And everything was an indication of, don't worry, the job is yours to lose. And we waited and we waited and we waited. And a few weeks later, Kavita had to chase and follow up to find out what was going on. And we found out that the position was no longer open. That broke me. That night, I sat down with the weight of what that meant for Kavita, for the boys, for us as a family, for everything that we had been waiting for. This was when the prayers had run out and there was no language left to say what I needed to say. I did not understand it yet because I thought here was the way out and that door was slammed shut in my face. And it felt like God was being silent to the pain and the suffering that I was going through in that moment. And Kavita, you yourself said that in that moment you were doubts, right?
Yes, sir.
But then the Good Friday came. You guys know this if you've been listening. 7 in the evening, the phone rings, the job offer, and it's for a company that I'm still working for today and a company that I love working for today. And it was much better than what I had initially wanted, right? And the best thing is there were some changes in Kavita's company and the department that I was interviewing for no longer exists.
Exactly. Today,
Right?
yeah.
So if I had gotten that job a
Today.
year down the line, I would be jobless again and I'll be looking for another job.
Yeah.
So we always see only what we can see. We have limits to our vision. God sees a much bigger picture. His vision transcends not just space, but transcends time as well, right? And sometimes when God is silent, it never means that He's not listening. God is always listening. But sometimes when He's silent, it just means that you don't fully understand what it is you're asking for. And if you trust Him, then all will be made clear, right? So I want to close with this. If you're in a silent season right now, let me read this verse to you, right? It is Psalm 62, verse 5. For God alone, O my soul, wait in silence, for my hope is from Him. For God alone, O my soul, wait in silence, for my hope is from Him. We are not going to tell you it's easy. It's not easy to wait in silence. What we are going to tell you is that the answer is coming. Silence is not absence. God is not quiet because He has forgotten you. He is quiet because He is working. And what He is building in the silence is always greater than what you are asking Him to give you. Any last words you want to share for someone who's listening and going through their own period of silence right now?
Well, the only thing I can say is it's worth the wait. It can be 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, 40 years, 60 years, all your life. But you know what? It's worth the wait. Because once you discover this God who's working in your background, then the feeling is different. The joy is different. It can be the last minute or so. The next very day, you're not going to live anymore. But today you discover God and that's it. Your whole life you've been suffering. You know what? Even that's worth it.
Yeah.
You know what? Your faith. As long as you have that faith, in the end of the day, you know you will go back to your Father's house. That's all that matters.
Amen. Looking back at every season we've told you about today, the reckless years, the waiting, the financial wilderness, God was present in every single one. I want to underline that, right? God was present in every single one. We just could not see it. You will not always see it either. But trust me, even right now, even if you think you are going through a period of silence, trust me, He is there and you will see it. Before we go, I just have one ask. If you are listening to this and it has touched you and you have been listening to us from day one, please recommend this podcast to someone. The whole reason we are doing this is so that our testimonies inspire others to start reaching out to God and to start sharing their own testimonies. That is how a world that needs God hears about Him, through the testimonies of His faithful. Until the next time, I'm Kevin,
Kavita.
and this is His faithfulness. He was faithful, He is faithful, He will be faithful.